Hello everyone. Welcome to Camp B5 Introduction to Microsoft Office. My name is Bahar Azand and I'm your instructor for this semester. The first subject we're going to cover in this course is Introduction to Computers. Let's begin. What is a computer? We hear the word computer all the time. We use it on daily basis. Let's just take a look at it. The term computer comes from the word compute. A computer can be any electronic device that manipulates data. It actually gets some sort of the data as an input, process it, manipulate it, modify it, or change it, and then creates another sort of the output for you. For example, if you're sending an email, if you're playing games, if you're doing your web browsing, you're using your computer. You probably know if you're creating in a spreadsheet, if you're creating a presentation, if you're even creating a video, if you're doing a video chat, if you're checking your Facebook, if you're checking your Instagram, you're using a computer for that. Look at this one. This is you, and you're actually inputting the data into a computer. You're using either a keyboard or a mouse, or if it is a screen touch device, you're using your fingers on the screen to enter the data and information. You may use it for a Word document. You may actually want to write an email and send it. You may just want to watch a video on Netflix. So you probably enter this information and the data or request into a computer. And then one of these operating systems that we're going to talk about it later come into play and then create an output for you. The output can be a picture, something that you can print. It can be an audio, like a music that you are listening to. It can be a video that you're watching, or it can simply be an email that you are sending or receiving. Okay, let's have a deeper look here. Anytime that you actually enter the data into the computer is called input. Then the computer actually manipulates that data, changes it, or modify it. This phase or this stage is called processing the data. After the data is processed, then it produces some sort of desired information or outcome for you. This is called output. And then at the end, the information that is produced may be saved or actually stored somewhere. How does a computer know that how to change all this data, how to manipulate this data and generate what you need? These are certain instructions that are actually saved somewhere. Usually it's called in a section or in a unit that is called memory. We're going to review that later in the course. So in summary, we actually input the data, computer process the data, then generates an output, and at the end store the data in some sort of the storage. Computers come in different sizes and shapes. We actually use them for many different functions in our daily lives. For example, ATM. When you go to the bank and use the ATM machine, you're actually using a computer. When you actually go to a grocery store and do a self-checkout, you're using a computer. Or very simple, if you're using a calculator, you're using a computer. The most common type of the computers are desktop computers, laptop computers, tablets, and servers. But then there are also other specialized computers that we are using on daily basis. For example, your smartphone, um, your Apple Watch, your smart watch that you're wearing, your Xbox that you're playing, even if you have a smart TV or even drones these days, these are all computers, but more specialized computers. We mentioned computers actually need data to produce information. They get the data, they process it, and they produce information. So, what is the difference between data and information? Data is basically a collection of raw facts, raw numbers, raw symbols, words, images. But Information is when you actually give all these raw facts or all these numbers a sort of a meaning. So when you put the data in an organized way that creates a meaningful concept for you, that means it is information. Let's give an example. If I give you the color red, just simply red, I just tell you red, it is a color for you. But if I put that red into a traffic light, you will see there is a meaning associated with it. Same thing with the color green. You see a color green anywhere, you can see it in the street, it doesn't have any meaning. But when that color actually, the color green actually comes into a traffic light, there is a meaning associated with it. And that means it is information. Another good example of this could be looking at some raw data or some digits like next to each other. 89566644444. It doesn't have any meaning on its own. But once it is put in this format, then you can realize this is a phone number with an area code 895-666-4444. Then all these raw numbers now have a meaning and it is an information for you. Our computers have two main components, hardware and software. Hardware refers to any physical component of the computer, anything that is tangible, anything that you can touch, whether it is outside of the computer or whether it's inside the computer. Softwares, however, are not tangible. You cannot touch them. They're the instructions that tells the hardware or the physical part of the computer, they tell them what to do. We mentioned hardware is a tangible part of the computer, any part of the computer that you can touch, the physical part of the computer. Good examples are printer, monitor, keyboard, mouse. Um, Inside the computer could be your motherboard, which we're going to review later, your CPU, your storage, even like your flash drive. All of those are actually the hardware part of the computer. What are input devices and output devices? Any hardware component that lets you enter the data or command or program into the computer is an input device. For example, your mouse is an input device, your keyboard is an input device, your scanner is an input device because once you scan a page and enter that page information into the computer, that is actually an input device. Um, your webcam is an input device. Your optical pennant is an input device. What are the output devices? Any hardware components that makes that information available to you. For example, a printer. Once you print something, that information is available to you. When you actually view something on your monitor, the monitor is an output device for you. Your speakers are output device because they actually generate the audio for you and then make it available to you. There are some sort of devices, some of the devices that can be both input and output devices. Think about it. If you have a touch screen, you can actually enter your commands using that touch screen to the computer. That makes it an input device. But then on the other hand, you can also view what it is available to you. That makes it an output device. So there are some sort of devices that can be both input and output devices. Can you think of some input and output devices in a car? Yeah, your backup camera or rear view camera is a good example of an input device. The digital screen, especially if you have one of those new ones, in there they can be both input and output device in the car. You know, some of the cars also have many sensors, especially the new smart cars. Um, But very simple example of it could be those that like they have a tire pressure sensor that checks the pressure of the tire and gives you the information. That is an input device. Or the temperature, the cars, those you know how you see actually the temperature outside. Those sensors are some sort of input device to your car. And also the new cars that have that motion sensors, like if something passes by your car, you hear a beep. Those are input devices as well. In the hardware section, we mentioned CPU. You probably hear that word often. CPU or central processing unit is the brain of the computer. It is the part that gets the data and instruction, then decodes it, understanding what it's supposed to do, and then executes and run those codes, and then at the end store the output. So there are four main stages that the CPU does. One, fetch, two, decode, three, execute, and four, store. As far as how a CPU looks, you can look at those pictures at the bottom of the slide. This one and this one. A CPU is actually a very small chip that it's made of billion of microscopic transistors. Of course, the faster the CPU is, the better the CPU is. The next hardware component that we're going to cover is memory. We have two types of memories in computers. We have RAM and then we have ROM. RAM or random access memory is a temporary working area. That means where your computer puts some certain information from the hard disk are coming into the RAM and then you can start working. RAM is much faster than a storage like hard disk. Let me give you an example of how RAM works. Let's say you actually were working in a Word document last night. You saved it. You shut off your computer and then you went home. You came back today and you want to work on that same file again. Once you click on that document, you open it. That information actually now come to RAM from the hard disk. You start working on it. Once you save it and then you close the program, then that Word document is going back and being saved on the hard disk again. Meanwhile, when you're working on it, that Word document is still sitting on the RAM. That's why if you lose power meanwhile, this information is not saved. And when you actually reopen the file, after you lose the power and you didn't save it, you no longer have the information or the changes that you've made. Therefore, remember this. RAM is a temporary working area, and once the computer is shut down, RAM is cleared. On the other hand, we have ROM. There are certain information that we still need to be saved on the computer all the time. And then when you turn on the computer, those information needs to be there, saved and accessible for you to use. Example of it would be anything that is related to booting the system, anything that is related to booting a software. Those are the information that needs to be saved permanently, and that's why they are being saved on ROM or read-only memory. Remember this, ROM or read-only memory is permanent, and even if you lose power or you shut off your computer, the information is saved on ROM. You probably heard the term bit and byte, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte. What is a bit and what is a byte? A bit is the smallest unit of the data on a computer. It comes from the word binary digit. It means it can only get two values, 0 and 1. It can also be a yes or no. It can be an off or on. It can be a true or false. When you actually put 8-bit together, you make a byte. Look at this one. This is a bit. and it can take a 0 and 1. This is another bit, and it can take a 0 and 1. Now put 8 of them together, and that makes a byte. One byte is actually the smallest unit of the memory that can be addressed in many computers. Now, put 1024 bytes together, and then you will have a kilobyte. Put 1024 kilobyte together, and you will have a megabyte. Put 1024 megabyte together, and you will have a gigabyte. Well, the storage is a part of the hardware that stores and saves the data for a longer time. Even if the computer is turned off, the data and the information stays on it. So they are permanent, they're being used for permanent or a longer storage of the data. Um, some of those storage devices are actually attached to the motherboard. We have hard disk drives and solid state drives or SSDs. Hard disk drives are a little bit of older versions of the storage devices or disks, and they are slower, they are fragile, and they have a moving part, but they are less expensive. You can use them for storing movies, photos, and documents. Solid state drives, however, are much faster, they are shock resistant, and they are more reliable because they don't have any moving part. The only thing is they are more expensive. They're being used more often these days, and they're better storage device to store operating system, gaming apps, and any type of files that being used more often because they're faster. On the other hand, we have another type of the storage that can be removed and transferred easily. You can take it from one computer to the other computer easily. Example of it would be those USB flash drives. You can easily move them from one computer to another computer. Okay, the main circuit board on the computer is called motherboard. Motherboard is actually where many of the hardware components of the computer are installed, such as CPU, memory cards, video cards. Looking at these two pictures, there are the pictures of the motherboard. On the left side, you can see here, this is your CPU that we actually covered earlier. These are RAM, memory cards. Here you can see the hard drive installed on it. I am assuming this is an older motherboard because many of newer version of the computers they don't have the CD and DVD drive anymore. And these are the PCI slots. These are designed to add additional hardware such as graphic cards. Let's take another look inside the PC. Here you see the RAM. This section at the bottom on the back side, you can see the memory, the motherboard, where the CPU is installed on it, where the RAM is installed on it. This is where you actually put your flash drive. This one is the hard disk and the SSD or solid state drive that we talked about. Right here, you will see the power supply. This is where the graphic card and sound card are installed. Okay, earlier we mentioned that computers have two major components, hardware and software. Hardware are the physical part of the computer that we can touch and they're tangible, such as monitor, keyboard, mouse, printer, webcam. Software, however, are not tangible, meaning you cannot take it out and start touching it. They are actually set of the instructions that tells the hardware what to do. Two main categories of softwares are operating system and applications. Operating system software provides the interface between the hardware and application software. Application software allows the user to perform certain tasks. For example, if you look at these are all of the application softwares. If you're using an app to send a message to your friend, such as WhatsApp, Telegram, those are application softwares, and you probably heard the app or application term for it. The operating systems on personal computers are examples of them are Microsoft Windows, Linux, and the operating system that are installed on mobile phones. Um, Google, Android, and Apple iOS are the famous ones. All computers must have an operating system. Operating system is the part that manages the hardware and applications and programs. As soon as you turn on your computer, operating system is actually loaded into the computer by a boot program. Then it creates an interface between the hardware and a user. One of the most important tasks of the operating system is actually allocating the resource. The operating system actually determines which program should use how much of a memory when it should a specific device. For example, if you have an Excel sheet open and you have a Word document open and you want to print both of them, the allocation of the resource or when which one is going to use the printer is something that is managed by operating system. Operating system also actually provides a platform for the developers or programmers to write the applications. The very famous operating system that you probably know is Chrome iOS, Mac iOS, Linux is another one, Android, Windows. These are all examples of the operating systems. Now that we learned a lot about different operating system, let's talk about a real example in real world. Imagine Tesla cars. They of course need an operating system for their cars and their computers. The main operating system that they are using is Linux. However, each interface has a different operating system. And the reason for that is each operating system has to be engineered toward the exact feature or the goal that the feature has. Therefore, they cannot use only one general operating system. Each feature needs to have a more specialized operating system. Application software is actually a software that is designed more towards user needs. It actually helps the user to achieve certain goals. They are designed for specific goals for the user. As we mentioned before, application software is the application that is between the user and the operating system. They are coming into different categories. One is a productivity software. What is a productivity software? It's a specific software that helps the employee or the business owner to complete their jobs using that specific software. For example, if you are an employee, most of the day you're going to be using Microsoft Office products such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or sending your emails through Outlook. That is a productivity software. Then we have utility software. A utility software is actually a software that lets you modify your computer or your file or fix something on your computer. For example, if you're using an antivirus, um, if you are using a software to um, zip your file, if you're using to a software to clean up your disk, these are all considered as utility softwares. Another type of application software is programming software. Programming softwares are actually the software that helps the programmer code and test the results. For example, if you are coding in Python, MySQL, Xcode, Visual Studio, all of those are considered programming softwares. Um, then after that, we have enterprise resource planning software, which they call it ERP. ERP is actually an integrated system that is used mainly by businesses and bigger companies. Those integrated softwares have multiple components that are designed for different uses for the company. Like it has the HR, it has the finance, it has the supply chain, it has the manufacturing, and then they're all put together in one centralized system, and it is called ERP. Some example of it, you can say it is SAP, Oracle, NetSuite, Dynamic 365, and Sage. Other software categories can include mobile applications, gaming, educational, healthcare, and many others. Mobile applications are actually those software or apps that you install it on your phone and you use it, which I think majority of you are very familiar with those applications, such as WhatsApp. If you have Telegram, WhatsApp, um, Snapchat, these are all mobile applications. Then we have gaming softwares. Those are the softwares that are specifically designed for gaming. Such as Steam, Xbox Game Passes. You actually play the game using that software. Then we have educational softwares. They're designed for educational purposes, such as Udemy, Duolingo, Lectomate. I don't know if you ever tried any of them, but for example, Duolingo is designed to teach different languages using the app. And then we have healthcare software, which is the software that is designed to be used in the healthcare industry. Um, you probably heard of that. Recently, a lot of doctors that you're going, a lot of clinics you're going, you can check in using, you can download their app and check in through their app. You can see the result of your test or you can see the doctor's note. Those are healthcare softwares and their electronic health record system or EHR. We live in a world that there are so many different computing devices around us, a smartphone, tablets, mobile devices such as fitness trackers, medical devices such as pacemakers. These are all computing devices. Um, Also, we have IoT or Internet of Things now. There are those devices that can be connected to the internet. For example, if you have one of those cameras outside of your home, if you have even a ring that you can connect to the Wi-Fi using your app or your phone and see who's outside, who's coming, what is happening, that is an IoT. If you have seen some of those driverless robots that actually carries the food in the streets, those are IoTs. Um, you may actually have one of those smart thermostats at home that you can log in using the app and change the temperature using the app, such as Nest is an example of them. Alexa is another good example. Or the new kitchen appliances. You can connect them to the Wi-Fi, and when you're even outside of your home, you can turn it on, turn it off, change the temperature, or change the setting for it. These are called IoT or Internet of Things. Great news! We have completed all the materials that we wanted to cover related to Introduction to Computers for this class. Now it's your turn. Please make sure you check your Canvas for your homework assignment. If you have any questions about the homework or if you have any question about the material, please make sure to send me an email. My email address is baharit.zand@bakersfieldcollege.edu. Also, you can email me or inbox me through the Canvas. Good luck.